The Supreme Court has deferred to August 29th judgment in a suit challenging the election of Governor Olusegun Mimiko of Ondo State. A 7-man panel of the Apex Court is to decide on the petitions filed by Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu of the former Action Congress of Nigeria and Chief Olushola Oki of the People's Democratic Party, who were candidates in the election. The two appellants asked the court to nullify the election of Governor Mimiko and order a fresh election as a result of irregularities and corruption in the compilation of the voters' register. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafo, has the report.
The Supreme Court, led by Justice Walter Onogene, cut short their annual vacation to hear the appeal of candidates of the People's Democratic Party and the former Action Congress of Nigerian candidate in the Ondo State's 2012 governorship election, challenging the victory of Governor Olusegun Mimiko. Counsel to Mr. Akeredolu of the Action Congress of Nigeria asked the court to substitute the Action Congress of Nigeria with the All Progressive Congress following the merger of the ACN with two other parties to form the APC. His application did not go down well with other parties in the suit, who challenged the jurisdiction of the court to exchange the names of the parties. The Apex Court agreed with other parties in the case, and rather than replace the ACN with the APC, the court struck out the Action Congress from the suit, since it is now a dead entity. Having settled that, the court went into the case proper. First was the case of Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, who asked the court to order a fresh election on the grounds that the election that brought Governor Mimiko to power was marred by irregularities and corrupt practices. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party on his path told the court that the Independent Electoral Commission had connived with the Labour Party to inject names into the 2011 voters' register.
The Supreme Court must lead us and let the country know that the courts are there to correct errors, and that where you have an invalid register, you cannot have a valid election. That's all.
There was no display or publication of the voters' register. To us, that has substantially and very irretrievably compromised the integrity and sanctity of the election process.
Counsels to both Governor Mimiko and the Labour Party, through a cross-application, urged the court to discountenance the appeal filed by the two parties. Since the Action Congress of Nigeria has been struck out of the case, the appeal, if allowed, will suffer the challenge of participation, since it is only parties who participated in the first election that will be allowed to participate in the first election if allowed. INEC on its part denied any wrongdoing.
They never produced the register, which was the exercise of the allegation, and they never compared the names in that register with the names in the register used for the election. So clearly they failed to prove their allegation. The tribunal found that they failed. The Court of Appeal also found that they failed.
The Apex Court has adjourned to the 29th of August 2013 to deliver judgment in the case. This means that in the next 48 hours, the governor and all contenders in this case will know their fate. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, back here in Lagos, the 53rd Annual General Conference of the Nigeria Bar Association continued in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, with the host governor and Lagos State governor bearing their minds on burning national issues. And while Governor Lieli Moke called for the strengthening of the nation's security institutions, his Lagos State counterpart, Babatunde Fashola, advocated the review to end the time limit to election tribunal.
The reforms that are necessary for us to deal with security would entail extensive reforms of what we believe is the structure of the Nigerian police that is responsible for that. And the police has evolved and has been seen in many ways over the years to not be able to basically meet our expectations.
The problem of the delay of trials of petitions was a fundamental problem that needed a much more deep thinking and deep analysis of what caused the problem, rather than simply going to just change a section of the Constitution. And for how long and how often do we as a people want to keep amending our Constitution? Indeed, the question will be whether a provision limiting that time for the trial of an election petition should be in the Constitution or in the Electoral Act.
A kinsman of prominent lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Mike Ozekome, who was kidnapped on Friday, have staged a peaceful protest in Benin City to demand the unconditional release of their brother. Mr. Issa Didi, who spoke on behalf of the people of Ivukwe community in Esako East local government area of the state, appealed to the lawyers' abductors to release him unhurt. He explained that Ozekome is a human rights activist who has been fighting for the people and cannot afford whatever ransom his abductors may request. Mr. Ozekome was abducted by men suspected to be kidnappers on the Benin-Auchi Expressway in an operation that left 4 policemen dead.
It is very unfortunate that a man like Ozekome, who has always fought on the side of the masses, who has always fought for the masses, can be kidnapped. All we are saying, we are not a kind of giving ultimatum. We are appealing to the kidnappers, whoever they are, to kindly release him, because he has a people whom he cared for so much.
We have news now that the joint health sector unions have called off their industrial action after 2 days of negotiations with the federal government. Both parties reached agreements on contentious issues after meeting for over 11 hours. At the commencement of discussions, the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Mr. Emeka Wogu, had expressed optimism that negotiations which began on Monday will be concluded today. Top on the health workers' list of demands was for the Minister of Health to obey the National Industrial Court's judgment, which allows them to skip level 10 of the consolidated health salary structure. They were also kicking against the non-designation of members of the union as consultants. On to politics, the People's Democratic Party has condemned the conduct of the parallel primary election to choose a candidate for the November 16 election in Anambra State, other than the one conducted by the party on August 24th this year. The party has therefore invited Andy Uba, Chris Uba, Ejiko Bego, Benji Odiozo and Mrs. Tonya Nwankwo to appear before the National Working Committee tomorrow, August 28th, for a hearing on their role in the parallel primary. In a statement by the party's acting National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Tony Okeke, the PDP insisted that the only governorship primary election recognized by the party was the one conducted by the electoral panel led by Governor Ibrahim Shehu Shema of Katsina State. The party asked the Inspector General of Police to investigate the alleged illegal procurement of sensitive party materials for the primary election by persons who paraded themselves as working for the PDP. A former Minister of Information, Chief Edwin Clark, says it is clear from the 1999 Constitution that President Goodluck Jonathan is entitled to a second term in office. The elder statesman was speaking in Abuja during a meeting with former members of the House of Representatives. He insisted that the president has every right to contest the 2015 presidential election, and Nigerians should recognize that.
Today is Mr. President's turn. Tomorrow it will be another man's turn. That's why we have a constitution. The constitution says that before you can be disqualified to be a president of this country, you must have contested 2 elections. That's after the first section of 4 years, you can recontest for a second term of another 4 years. Thereafter, you will not be eligible again. That is the law. So under section 137, I think, Mr. President is entitled to 2 terms. That's of 8 years. And you, as a former member, you recognize that.
Elder statesman Chief Edwin Clark and the Nasarawa State House of Assembly has been shut indefinitely. This follows an attack on the lawmakers today by youth believed to be supporters of the state governor Tanko Almakura, who was at the assembly in response to a summon by the House members. The Speaker of the Assembly, Mr. Musa Mohammed, told journalists at a news conference in Lafia, the state capital, that the House will no longer hold any sittings until the security of the lawmakers is guaranteed. Several youth have stormed the assembly ground, throwing stones at the lawmakers following the appearance of the governor before them. A strategy in politics most times takes a diverse shapes. PDP in Oyo State is not leaving anything to chance in giving the ruling APC in the state a good run for their money come 2015. House Leader in the National Assembly's lower chamber, Mrs. Mulikat Akonde, and former Governor of Oyo State, Mr. Adebayo Alao Akala, have teamed up in a campaign to strengthen the People's Democratic Party in the state. Both of them gave out gifts to some people in the state, saying the gesture is aimed at empowering the beneficiaries.
The people of Oyo State dressed in uniform fabric. One may wonder what the occasion is about. It is not electionary period, but the opposition party in Oyo State is not asleep. These politicians are not strange to the politics of the state. They are the reason these people have gathered. And these items are to be given out to empower these people. Not usual, but it happens to be real this time around. Well, the reason for the gesture are made clear by the benefactor.
A demonstration of what PDP as a party and as a government stands for. I therefore make this clarion call on all people and our supporters to ensure that PDP returns to power in Oyo State and indeed the whole of the Southwest come 2015.
The happy beneficiaries cannot hide their joy as they march forward one after the other to receive their gifts. It does appear to be a political strategy by these politicians in convincing the people to move to their camp, but definitely they realize just as important to pull their house in order to be able to put up a good fight against the ruling APC.
To strategize and try to put our house in order before we go for any Congress. We don't want the Congress again to tear us apart. And as such, it's not because of court order or anything that we are not doing our Congress. We just felt that we need more time to put our house in order.
All the parties who merged, like CPC, they are not existing here. It's only the ACN that is there. So we've always known ACN, and we all know what happened in 2011. It's more of the PDP problem, which we are trying to correct. And I can assure you that by 2015, we'll definitely take our state back.
The drumming is loud, and the sounds are a clear signal of the kind of battle the players are setting up as the period of election draws closer. The clear reality now is that electorates are getting wiser, and their votes will definitely determine how they are governed. Sheung Okinbaloye, Channels Television News.